Come on in, everybody. Come on in. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Come on in, everybody in, everybody in, everybody in. Keep on coming, guys. Keep on coming. It's going to be a great night. We've got a great panel here. Obviously, I'm not Sarah Cooperman. She had very important things she had to do tonight. Not more important than you guys, but just something that was taking her away from here. And she asked me to come in and help out tonight, which I'm always honored to do. We're going to go over Zoom real quick with everybody. I know we've probably been Zoomed out for the last 3 years, but just to be clear, right now you guys are all muted just because the noise would be a little bit verbatim for us. A lot of your videos are off as well. Security is if Andrew gets out of hand, we can shut him down. We actually have about 140 people signed up tonight. But we normally get about 40 to 50 that come in, but people will listen to it. You'll get a link so that you can listen to it again during the week, and it's like a blog then. And now everybody to open up their chat box. So if you open up your chat box and drag it to the side, I'd love for you guys to tell us where you're from. Kimberly's already said hello. Adam, Chicago, beautiful. Nevada, keep going. Pennsylvania, St. Louis, Ontario, I'm from Quebec. Atlanta, Chicago, NYC, San Francisco. I'm from Kentucky myself. Go ahead now. Atlanta, Dallas. Great. Oh, good. We've got a good mix of people. Great. Great. Good. During tonight's webinar, if you guys have questions, I really would love for you to put them inside the box. I will either say them verbally or I'll have one of our panelists actually answer them for you as well. But we are here solely for you. Okay, this panel will be there to answer any questions you have. And I'm telling you, we were talking prior to you guys coming in, and these people know what they're talking about. Me, not so much, but they definitely know what they're saying. Welcome again. My name is Jeff Howard, and this is the Coaching Behavior Change. And I'm going to introduce the panel first. First of all, we have Lexi Bulish. She is honored to share her passion of dance and fitness with you. She is a regional studio fitness and Pilates manager for the Colorado Athletics Club in Denver and Boulder, Colorado. When not dancing, Lexi can be found teaching a variety of other fitness formats, including indoor cycling and spending time keeping up with her boys, Chad, Kaylin, and Chase. And I'm going to go ahead and have Lexi put her stuff in the box. So if you want to get a hold of her, you can. Next, we have Andrew, who I have known for many years. Andrew's one of my favorite people. He's a recognized speaker in the fitness industry. He's a master trainer and serves as director of education for Active Solutions. I hope I didn't butcher that, Andrew. I'm sorry. He is the founder of Most Fit, a small line of unique workout equipment, an NSAM and NFPT certified personal training and behavioral change specialist, and has developed comprehensive fitness and exercise programs for health club and workplace wellness facilities. Andrew's passion centers around users' engagement and human behavior. He's a plethora of information, guys. And I want Andrew now to put his stuff in as well. And lastly, but definitely not least, we have my beautiful Kimberly Spreen Glick. And Kimberly, I have known for 20 years. I mean, Kimberly and I go way back. Both Kimberly and I were very blonde when we met. I'm still blonde. She is not as blonde as she had been in the past. But she's been over 25 years of experience teaching and presenting internationally on fitness and yoga, as well as leadership and personal development. She serves as the Senior Director of Group Fitness at Lifetime for over 10 years and an IDEA Program Director of the Year. Through her online platform, The Inspires Life, her primary focus is helping fitness professionals expand their role to become wellness leaders so they can live their best lives while being the difference makers. And I'm going to tell you this, people that are watching in, these three panelists have so much passion about what we're talking about tonight that I really feel honored about being a part of them. My name is Jeff Howard. You've been in one of my sessions along the 30 years I've been in the business. I have a degree in kinesiology from the University of Texas. I do the Group X certification, the Aqua certification, and also the yoga certification for SCW. And I've just been around a very long time. But tonight we are talking about coaching behavioral change. And this means regardless of our clients' end goals, we are looking to create some kind of long-lasting behavioral change in their everyday life, whether it is weight loss, building muscle, or even general health. The same principles can all be used to deliver sustainable results with our clients. Join our panel of experts as they delve into the foundation of behavioral change to serve your clients the best possible way. And we've all had those clients that they come in, they start off strong, and then we lose them. And so we're kind of going to delve in how we can correct that and kind of asking the questions, how do we get to that even place? So before we start, we're just going to define what behavioral change is. And Andrew, I'd like to start with you. How would you describe behavioral change?
Sure. The easy description, I think, is any change in action and or perspective that is lasts over time. So if I do something new tomorrow, that's not necessarily behavior change, but that is part of me changing my behavior. And it also doesn't mean that it lasts forever. It could wane as we know motivation and identity changes.
Love that. Lexi, how about you? How do you define behavioral change?
Yeah, so just like Andrew said, any modification of your behavior, which can go both positive and negative. So that is important to keep in mind. Behavior change isn't always for the positive. We hope for our clients or our participants in class that they are moving in that direction, but it does wane up and down sometimes. And that's important to keep in mind when you're working with your clients.
I love that. How about you, Kimberly?
I would say everything they said. And I think that not only are we looking at a consistent shift in behavior, the actions that people take, but because, I mean, Lex makes such a great point that it can go either direction. There can be negative behavioral change or something that has a negative effect or positive. And of course, we as leaders, as difference makers, we want to help people move in the direction of positive behavioral change. And for me, part of the definition has to include, like Andrew said, perspective. We have to help people with getting off autopilot in manual mode to really understand what they're focused on and how they're choosing to see it, because perspective very much is a choice. And then also tune into helping them build a foundation of self-worth, because behavior change is not something that can be long lasting. It doesn't have the stick-to-itiveness unless people have a strong foundation of self-worth, because the change that they make will only be temporary unless they love themselves enough to do it for real.
I love that. I think that's awesome. So what tactics or strategies do you use when implementing a change with a client? And we're talking about basically your first meet and greet, and you kind of are like, we're going to dive in. What strategies? I want to talk about the first time we get to them, not how we keep them going along. Okay, so right now, just that first meet and greet, you're going to change their lives. How do you go about that? Andrew?
Yeah, sure. Now you got to understand the person. That's probably number one. And you can do that by asking them questions. Understandably, they might not know themselves well enough to answer those questions. So we can provide them with lots of different protocols and resources to do that, find out what it is that's important to them. I like to use, and if you come see me at any of my sessions at SCW, I talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs constantly, because I leverage that as a way to understand people's wants. Maslow, of course, if you're not familiar, was a psychologist who developed his pyramid essentially of various needs that we have as humans, starting with physical needs like warmth and food, and moving all the way up to the need to satisfy our ego. If I can compare my want to perhaps be able to move more limberly or quickly, to one of my needs, my need to protect myself or my family, then I'm going to be more apt to find out who I really am and what really motivates me. And I realize that's more than one single conversation, but that's one place where I start, is trying to figure out what is actually driving a client or a friend or a family member.
I love that. I love that. How about you, Kimberly?
So for me, I do actually have a process that I've developed over the years that I use to carry people through that behavioral change, because at the end of the day, it's about setting an inspired, hopefully an inspired goal for themselves of the shifts that they want to make. And so I have an acronym called POWER, and how I'd walk you through it really quickly is to say, first, we're going to find out where you are. We're going to find out where you want to go. We're going to talk about your why, both your intrinsic and extrinsic whys, like to really start to develop fuel for the journey. And then we're talk about experience. What do you already have in your toolbox that can help you get to where it is that you want to go? And what experience do you need to create? What actions can we take moving forward that will take you further down, that will move the needle toward the vision that you have for yourself? And then finally, how are we going to celebrate? I call it revelry. How are we going to celebrate not just the big win at the end, but let's plan ahead. How are we going to celebrate those steps, those milestones along the way?
I love that. Andrew, could you put in the chat the behavioral thing? And then Kimberly, if you could also put in what you just said, the power, what it stands for. And then Lex, I would love to hear how you, when you first meet, because you have a great tactic as well that you use.
Yeah, I think a couple I can suggest would be attacking it in small measurable steps, and not, these monstrous goals, similar to what Kimberly said, milestones along the way. 10 minutes a day, one less, glass of wine, or whatever their goal is, things that are very measurable and small. Kimberly talked about self-esteem, and I truly believe in that as well. We know that positive self-esteem is they're going to have a better chance adhering to that goal. And so finding, what tools, what do you have to bring up their self-esteem? What activities can you do with them that will improve their self-esteem, knowing that if we do that, likely they're going to stick with it a little bit longer. And the example I'll use, kickboxing, something like that, right? You're punching, you're kicking, you're going to feel so strong at the end. Weightlifting. For me, it's dancing, right? When I dance, I feel like I can conquer the world. Once I do those things that I love, I'm much more likely to stick with my goal, because I feel good about myself. And that's going to be the same for your clients. I think social support, so group training, group fitness, obviously we're big fans of that, is going to help with accountability and motivation for your clients. And then communication, right? Making sure you're checking in with them every once in a while. It doesn't have to be overkill, but if you haven't heard from them in a while, check in. Make sure your clients know that you're there, you're thinking about them, you care. And it's maybe more on a personal level, just to say, how are you doing? I haven't seen you for a while. And that just might be enough to get them to come back in.
I love that. I love that. Diane asked a question that kind of goes into now that middle part. So we have the client, they've been with us for a couple of weeks, they're being consistent, but then they start to waver. Or let's say they've even been with us for a year and they waver. So the behavioral change maybe hasn't stuck, or it's changed actually. How do you adjust to that, or how do you handle that? How do you get them readjusting with that, Andrew?
Yes, the $1 million question, I suppose. So one thing that's important when we're setting goals with clients and we're initiating them is, it's just as important for us as the Fit Pros to know as it is for them, but we should set the precedent that there is going to be changes in motivation and there should be changes in goal setting. Secondly, to that point, and to Kimberly's point, we should set many goals. Now, there's a line where we're going to be, we're not going to be fooling our clients, right? Especially depending on who they are. But in front of that line, we should set as many goals as possible. And those goals can be incrementally tiny, and they should be. And then we should celebrate every time we reach that goal, because the closer we are to achieving a goal, the more excited and generally the more driven we'll be to try to achieve that goal. That's called the goal gradient effect. And the closer I am to cake, the more I want cake. And that has a lot of other behavioral aspects to it. But imagine you're running a race and you finally see that finish line. Generally, you pick up your pace and you're more excited and driven to get to that finish line. So it's important to set many finish lines, celebrate those finish lines, and then reassess those finish lines.
Love it. Lexi, would you like to add to that?
I think, you said in your comment there, Diana, that you change it up. I think, keep doing that, right? Change it up, find something new. And maybe in one of those changes, you're going to see a spark in your client and you're going to watch them light up. You're going to watch them come back and that was really fun. Or I felt different after that one, and then try to determine what that thing is that's really sparking them at this point in their life, because we all know it does change, especially if you've had this client for a few years, right? A lot changes in several years over a pandemic, and what maybe sparked them in their motivation 2 years ago is not what's sparking them right now. So keep changing it up. I think you'll find that maybe something that you hadn't thought was going to be their spark will be, and maybe that will be the change that you need.
I love it. Kimberly, how about you? How do you keep them motivated so that the behavioral change continues?
Yeah, I mean, what Andrew and Lexi both have said have been spot on. And one of the conversations I like to have in the beginning is about detachment, because so often people attach their self-worth, their self-esteem, their value to the outcome. And if the outcome doesn't get here quick enough, or it isn't, or they just don't reach it at all, then all of a sudden they create a narrative of what that says and means about them. So we have to talk about detachment so that if they hit some bumps along the road, they don't give up. You know, we want to try to be preventative in that way, because so often people hit a bump in the road and then it's like, oh, I give up. It's not for me. And so to have that conversation, like Andrew was saying, to know that there are going to be some twists and turns along the way. Let's talk about the whole journey from start to finish. And then I tend to have some pretty strong straight talk that this is your life. Like, I'm here to play a supporting role. I am so excited to lock arms with you, but you need to show up for it. And whatever I can do once you've shown up to help move you toward the vision that you have for yourself, I'm all over it. But I can't help you if you don't show up.
I love that. I love that. I have clients as well that they will tell me point blank what they need to be a behavioral change. They need it to be at 10 o'clock across the board. And they're going to make their bed at 9:30, and then they're going to push themselves to get into the car, and they might not shower, but that's where they need to be. And they'll show up, guys, and they'll even be not motivated, but we just celebrate that they showed up. You don't have to be 100% every day. And you have to let them know that's okay. They can be 50%, but they showed up. And that's a win right there. Because let's be honest with you, everything we're asking them to do, it's called work. And so our job is to get them through it, make them feel successful, get a result, but that can be many things. I have a lot of clients, their whole purpose is not to be hurt anymore. They don't want to be hurt anymore or injured. So my whole goal is just to train them, get them fit, but not get them past that hurt thing. Kimberly, I'm sorry, were you gonna?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, you know, speaking straight, not only to you, Diana, and so great to see your name pop up. How are you? And all of you. I mean, you are uplifters. You are out there trying to make a difference in people's lives. And so please let that message that I just shared translate to you as well. You need to detach from the outcome, because at the end of the day, as I said, like, your supporting role in a life that is the responsibility of another human being. So at some point, we've got to have that serenity to be able to accept what we can't control and you know, do what we can. But ultimately, if they're going to choose to move on, to not show up, we can't hold that weight on our shoulders and some way, shape, or form create the narrative for ourselves that it means we failed because you didn't. So just wanted to throw that in.
I love that. I love that. I don't know how many of you out there have, you know, you keep pushing and you keep chasing and then they don't respond. And there has to be that conversation where this is just isn't working for us, or maybe I'm not the right trainer for you. And sometimes them changing even to another trainer gives you actually space to put someone else in there that's brand new that you can help motivate. Don't ever be afraid of that. And maybe you're just not a good fit at that moment anymore. And you shouldn't be afraid of that, guys, because what exhausts us, it's not the workout, it's not the planning, it's the motivating. It's that motivating thing that we have to make people spend time with us and pull them through something that's not challenging or not enjoyable for them. Yes, Lexi.
Yeah, so I think a line that's coming to mind is people change when they are ready to do so. And that is so important, right? You are their trainer. You are alongside them for the journey, but you can't change them. And you talk about the different models of change that people go through. If they're not ready, it's not gonna work. So you can stay alongside them. You can still stay as their cheerleader and their supporter and all the things that you do. But know that if they're not quite there yet, it might go backwards for a little bit, and that's okay too. You'll hopefully, you know, kind of move forward, or you know, like Kimberly said, you don't have to chase them. They'll come to you when they're ready. Maybe you back off a little bit, and maybe if you actually back off a little bit, they might start coming a little bit more forward and realizing, oh wait, I actually do need their support or their help.
I love that. I love that. Mike said something, he finds out their values, but that kind of goes on to our next thing. How can you determine what motivates your clients? Motivation or value, I feel, are very similar. Andrew, how do you do that? How can you determine what motivates your clients?
Well, I think that it's not nearly as simple as one meeting with that client, again, because oftentimes we haven't been introspective enough, or perhaps we've even been too introspective and have possibly come up with the wrong answer. I also think it's important, and this is deep, but one of the things that I have started research on at Cal State University Northridge are the things in our identity that motivate us. And sometimes it's hard to admit to a trainer you just met or at all, right? Sexuality. There's a very thin line in our industry about how we can leverage that and market that. And as we know, it could backfire enormously, but we often push it aside completely, for example. Those are big motivators. And what we should do often with people's motivations, with the window at which they see the world, is we should lean into it, understand it, and push it further. So to understand somebody's values, again, we can relate to their actual needs in life. Everything we want in life has a need behind it. Every hit that a meth addict takes has some sort of need being met. Obviously, it's faulty and it's backwards as far as Maslow's pyramid is concerned. It's upside down. But they still have a need that is being met by that. So we have to remember that, help our clients come to that fruition. And if they're at the right place in their stages of readiness to change, we can be there for them to hopefully catch them, help them create an environment that's conducive to that change, and then further their positive habit change.
I love that. Lexi, would you like to add to that? How can you determine what motivates your clients?
I think just constantly paying attention to them, watching, listening. When you see things that make a positive change, hold on to that little thing and keep doing it is really important. And I think changing it up, we talked about that, is also great. But when you find something that's sticking, even if it's a short period of time, stick to it. Something I brought up earlier when we were just talking as presenters is your love language, right? We use it in our families and our personal relationships, but words of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch, gifts, quality time. What is the thing that motivates your client, and then find a way to do that little thing to make sure that you're filling that need, and they're knowing that they're feeling that motivation from you constantly.
Kimberly?
So I'm a big believer. This was the case when I was a personal trainer, and then when I started getting into coaching, it became even more so. I'm a big believer that our job should always be to work ourselves out of a job. So if we are working with clients, we can find out what externally motivates them, and then we can show up in that way. And that is a huge gift that we can give. But in alignment with that, partnering with that, we need to have those conversations about the why, not just the I want to lose 10 pounds, but the deeper why of what they want. Is it because you want more energy? You want to be able to get on the ground and play with your grandkids? Like, what's the deeper why? Because that is always going to be the fuel for the journey. If we can help them tap into that, now we've gone beyond motivation. See, people often use motivation and inspiration interchangeably, but they're very different, because motivation is external. It's like a push factor, something that impels you to do something. In fact, fear is the greatest motivator as far as power can be. Well, no, love is the greatest motivator, darn it. But some will say fear is the greatest motivator. And but it's external. And because it's external, it's short-lived. So once I go away as your coach, that motivation can easily fade away too. But if I can help you tap into what inspires you to do the work, to do the reps, to take the actions, then that's something that is internal. It is something that is pulling you, because it's your internal drive to move forward. And so even after I'm long gone and I've worked myself out of a job because you don't need me anymore, you can stand on your own 2 feet and tap into that internal inspiration to stay the course as your fuel.
I love that. I love that. Would anybody like to add anything to that? I know when she says something, it makes you think about it. I know for myself, to motivate clients, they let me know kind of sometimes what motivates them very clearly. But what I'm hearing mostly from the panel, and I know you're doing this as well at home, is they're communicating with their clients all the time. Whether the session is an hour, 30 minutes, or 45 minutes, that gives you time not to only talk about their lives, but you have to listen to what they're telling you. How'd you sleep last night? What you have to eat, da da da. That general conversation that you have to fill up that time, we should be assessing, are they getting what they need? And that's our part then to say to them, maybe we should be doing this or this differently. But what I'm hearing clearly is we're all communicating very, very openly with their clients, and it is a relationship. Don't ever forget that. And with that, it gives you that place to do it as well. I was telling the panel before this, I'm going through a process right now with my clients that they're telling me that they are monetarily, that what motivates them. What does that mean? That if they don't show up for, let's say, 5 of the sessions out of 2 weeks, that they have to pay me $100. They told me this. I didn't tell them that. They're telling me this. Or they want to do cardio on the off days. I have 2 gentlemen that are like this. If I don't send you my cardio, because I have them send a picture of it to my cell phone, that they want to pay me $50 whenever they don't send it. That tells me that they are motivated by what? Monetary. That's what they told me. I have clients that want to pay me up front right away because they know if they pay me up front, they'll show up. You've got to, they'll tell you guys, they will tell you what works for them or not. And I love what Kimberly said about fear, because how many of us gotten clients that their doctor told them to come to us? Oh my God, they said I got to lose weight. I need to be at you. Those clients for me are the hardest to motivate because it's based out of fear rather than something they found inside. And that's interesting. How do we turn that around though, Andrew? How would you turn someone like that around?
Boy, there's the billion-dollar question, I suppose. So when it comes to becoming successful and learning how to be successful, that is a possible thing to do. That goes back to our many, many goals. Kimberly's advice on celebrating all of the wins, right? Martin Seligman is a psychology researcher who's been doing research for 50 years now, and he does research on learned helplessness and learned optimism. So just as much as we can develop beneficial habits, we can develop poor habits, like my fellow presenters suggested. So if we can help our client learn to succeed and to understand that they have control over whether they succeed or not, theoretically, they are going to get better at doing that. If I have a client who has constantly lapsed or relapsed and has gained no success, or at least hasn't noticed their successes, which is more likely the case, then they might become used to having what seems like a lack of control. So we don't necessarily have to deliver them different results. We simply have to set different goals and pay attention to the results that are made to hopefully teach our clients to be successful. And that comes with motivation and inspiration, right? Even if I have a client who needs me there for the rest of their life, so be it. They don't have to rely on willpower forever. I can simply design an environment where they can win and notice their wins and therefore develop theoretically a new habit and a new lifestyle.
I love that. Would you like to elaborate on that, Lex or Lexi?
Yeah, so Kimberly talked about the intrinsic, and I think when you're talking about barriers of why people don't do things, often asking them, how did it make them feel when they had a positive outcome, right? If you had a great workout, or you had a really great day of eating where you followed, what we discussed doing, and how did that make you feel, right? Ask them those questions, and they're going to realize that I felt really good, or I slept really good, or there's going to be things that come out that they're going to tell you that you're going to know that, this person, the feeling is something that is motivating to a lot of people, right? You have that intrinsic motivation that will inspire them. And if they can start recognizing those positive feelings they experienced when they did follow the things you're giving them in small measurable steps, right? Not monstrous things, but little things. How did it make you feel? It made you feel great. Let's do that again, right? Why not, right? Let's do it again. If it made you feel good, you slept good, like how valuable is a good night's sleep, right? It's huge. Let's do that again, and I'll help you to make that happen. And then those baby steps might be enough to kind of overcome any barriers they had or to keep them motivated.
I love that. Kimberly, how about you, Kim?
I couldn't have said it better than the two of them put together, Andrew and Lexi.
I agree completely. I think the passion, you can feel it from the screen. But now flip it this way, though, as my panelists. So we all have that lineup. Maybe you have the 8, 9, 10, 11. And you've got the hard worker, and then you have the mom that just is, her success is just she showed up. And we have to adapt our personalities in the workout accordingly. And then you have after that maybe somebody that is even more not consistent. how do you as a trainer go from those different mindsets, and the energy has to match all those people? Andrew, I know a lot of it's just the numbers game, but how do you do it? Or how would you tell the people listening how to do it?
You know, I think I have an important answer for that. You're not everybody's trainer, no matter how much you want to be. When I first started, I'm 17 years in. When I became a trainer, I thought I was going to be and I moved to Northridge, by the way. If you don't know what happens in Northridge, California, let me elaborate. Every single adult film ever shot has been shot in Northridge, California. And I thought, I'm going to be the trainer for all of those people. I have been the trainer for none of those people ever. I don't even think I've met a person who does that as far as I know. So what I learned over time is I'm not going to be the Group X person like Galad or Richard Simmons. I have a niche that works for me. I also learned I'm an introvert. So as much as I like having conversations with people, I can only have conversations at people for a short amount of time, which is why I stopped doing Group X a long time ago. It is okay that you're not for everybody, because there's somebody for everybody, especially considering that there's, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of fitness pros in the US at this point, let alone the world. Help people find the thing that works best for them. It's okay if you're not for them. Give it a shot, help them out. It's
I
fine.
love that. I love it. What about you, Lexi? How do you adjust to each person that comes through that you're training?
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with Andrew. I'm a current manager right now, so I oversee 8 personal trainers at our facility, and I try to help them. I try to get to know the client a lot of times, right? So I'm a little bit more of the filter. I talk to the new client. I meet them when they sign up and buy their personal training package or their Pilates package, whatever they're looking for, and I'll actually have a conversation, kind of get a little bit more information on them, their personality, their style, what they're going to like. So hopefully whenever I connect them with a trainer, I've done some of that legwork for them. If you do have a manager that you're working with at a facility, I would say as a personal trainer or an instructor, make sure your manager knows what you can provide. Have they done a session with you? Do they know your style? Because not everybody is for everyone. And it's important to kind of maybe have some of those filters to set it up more for success from the beginning. Is if you are, paired with a client that would be a good match. Not always possible, but if you're in a gym setting, there's probably some sort of a process that happens that maybe you could work on the process to then help be partnered with clients that would be a good fit for you.
I love that. How about you, Kimberly? That's great advice, Lex. Good job, Andrew, as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't shine extra light on what Andrew said, because it was so important. So I hope you all took that in, that it's okay. We're all different personalities and energies, and whether it's group fitness, personal training, wellness coaching, we will, if we just show up authentically, we will draw to us those that are aligned energetically with personality wise and all that fun stuff. That said, you will be the right fit for multiple personality styles and energy levels, to Jeff's initial point. So one thing that I found really helpful, I did this when I was personal training, I do it now as a wellness coach. I have an initial meeting where we talk about expectations, and it's similar to what Lexi, what you're saying, where you'll talk to them, try to get an idea of how they want the sessions and the experience to play out. But we have a conversation about expectations. I lay out what my expectations are of them and the role that they play as the client, as the student, depending on what we're doing. And then I ask them to lay out for me what the expectations are. I actually write it all down, or I type it all up and then print it out, and we each sign it. And so we enter into the relationship having a better understanding of what is going to create the best level of success. And then once you're there, yeah, you're going to be a bit of a chameleon, but aren't we all anyway? I mean, for those of you that teach maybe a strength training class and a cardio kickboxing class and maybe a yoga class, don't you show up with like a different version of yourself for each style? It's really not that different. As long as you're always authentically yourself, you can shift your energy level and how you're speaking to someone to accommodate the scenario, so that you're making all of your sessions client focused. It's never about them having to get used to how you operate, how you speak, your energy level, but it's you doing what you're supposed to do. You're meeting them where they're at. And that doesn't just mean physically, it also means mentally and emotionally and energetically. That's just part of our job.
I also think there's nothing wrong with knowing how many hours you can do. I'm a 4 hour guy. If I do 4 hours, I need to take a break for me to rejuvenate and then I can hit it again. But it took me a while to understand that, like Andrew said, I hate to say it, I think most of us are introverts. Like we put on that persona to get out there, but I don't know if it's naturally in a lot of our personalities. And so, like everybody on this panel, and probably you guys listening in, we need that time for ourselves to rejuvenate so we can give the best version. And I know of me, 4 hours. If I go past 4 hours, I'm probably not the best version of me and they don't deserve that. So I take that time and then I can hit it again in the evening. Nothing wrong with that. Figuring it out. Lexi?
Yeah, something I'll add is, take care of yourself, right? So it's important. You have clients, but you also need to take care of yourself. And if you take care of yourself, whether that's a run, midday or a dance, right? Whatever that looks like for you, make sure you're making it happen, because that's going to make you able to show up for your clients and those people around you. Play music. I have clients or, have trainers that play music during some small group sessions, really pump it up. Maybe that's at my after lunch crowd and I know I'm going to be dragging. So let's pump up some music and see how we can create more energy. Look at different things like that might help.
I love that. We've got one more. How can you tailor or modify a client's goals for a long-term success? I think we've hit this back and forth, but let's just one more time. How can you tailor or modify a client's goals for long-term success? Lexi, you want to try that one?
So everything I have jotted down here, we've talked about, but determining their barriers and how to overcome them, right? I mean, if we can get over their barriers, we will help them be a long-term client. Focusing back on the feeling, that intrinsic motivation, the inside, how they felt when they had a really great workout, and holding on to those things that make them feel good and doing more of that. Being patient with them, and understanding it can go forward and backward. If you're patient, they will likely stick around long term because they'll trust you and they'll know that sometimes they have good days, sometimes they have bad days, but in the long term, you're going to be there for them and you're making choices that are in the best interest of them. And those clients usually end up not just being clients, but being friends.
I love that. How about you, Kimberly?
Yeah, I think it's a conversation before the journey even begins about the journey itself, and the fact that there will be ups and downs, so that they walk into it with their eyes wide open, and that we're here as their partner. We're all in the game of life. We're playing our own game. We have blind spots, and one of the great things about having a coach is that coach can see those blind spots and provide insight and perspective. And the beauty is that when you have a coach, they're not only able to share that insight and perspective, but in a way that does not in any way, shape, or form attach to our narrative about who we are and what we're capable of. So having that conversation about what the journey is going to realistically look like and be like, but then honestly, it's back to the why. And it's really solidifying the why from day one, but then revisiting the why, because it's why you're doing what you're doing that will get you out of bed on that day you want to stay all cuddled up. It's going to be the why that's going to give you the fuel on that day you want to give up. It's going to be the why that just keeps you going. And so it's important that it's not just part of a semantics process in the beginning and then you don't tap back into it along the way. It's got to be a part of the relationship between the two of you.
I love it. Andrew, we've just been asked a question. I train a husband and wife duo, and the wife only exercises to support her husband. He really appreciates and benefits from the workout, but she constantly complains and lets me know that what moves she doesn't like. Do you have any advice on how to coach her into changing that behavior to enjoy the workout?
Is it okay to advise her to get divorced, or is that out of line? No, I don't, unfortunately, because I'm an advocate for people having their own identity. And I think oftentimes in these situations, one partner absorbs another person's identity and it doesn't serve them well. It's probably more of a job for a therapist than I, but I think that's something to keep in mind. I unfortunately do not have a great answer for that. Sorry.
Do either of my panelists?
What's anybody?
Does anybody? I know
You
what
know,
I would do. I would.
Yeah, where my mind goes is, ask her what she does like. Can you give me 10 exercises that you do like? Let's do those, because then maybe you're at least involving her in the conversation and you can kind of squeeze those into the workout. The other thought I had would be working with them each 30 minutes individually instead of 60 minutes together, and suggest that as let's try that next week. I want to work with each of you 30 minutes and see if that improves. Maybe that might be a good transition to them working separately, which may be the best thing for them anyway. Just two of my thoughts.
Kimberly?
I would say if you had them in a scenario, and this is for Amanda, right? So Amanda, if you have them in a scenario where they're alternating sets, what if her job while her husband is going is to root him on to be his cheerleader? And then when it's her set, his job is to root her on. That might kind of fill the space with positivity, and maybe she wouldn't fall back on it. It's just a habit. She's probably on autopilot, and it's a habit for her to just perhaps complain about it. But honestly, what Lexi said is so spot on. I would definitely ask her to provide me with some exercises that she does like, to be sure that I can incorporate them into the routine as well.
And it comes back to the conversation. I mean, while you're here, what would you like to benefit from it? Not just working out with your husband. Is there parts of your body you'd like to maybe change or work on or tighten up, or, and I always go with, I think you look great, but is there something that you would like to work on? And it's very easy to get him going on something and having her do squats on a BOSU or something at the same time. It doesn't have to be geared the same way, but it's communication. But I mean, that's a tough situation. Bottom line, I've trained people before that their fitness levels are so different, but they're best friends. And you have to find that medium where one's hardworking and the other one doesn't know their left or right. And we can all do it because the benefit's going to be the same. They're moving. They're getting rid of, Andrew?
Yeah, I think that brings up another great point. And I know that we're blowing all kinds of references and words and stuff at you, and they're all important, but they're equally as important as the actual logistics involved in how we train people. So where I am and the type of people I train might not necessarily be able to afford my full price, even for both of them at the same time. So obviously it's not as simple as just telling people no all the time. So I realize that. So my colleagues are right, make suggestions, and if they're going to be better off separate, which I find is often the case in lots of scenarios, but they can't necessarily afford it, and you can't afford to change things, perhaps you can split it into 2 half hours, charge the same, and they'll be able to manage that, which of course, we have the skill set to manage 2 half-hour workouts just as well as one hour. So maybe we can lean into that. It's a good point.
I love that. We are actually 2 minutes till we are done, but I would love for my panelists to add just a closing note on coaching behavioral change. And do you want to start it off, Andrew? And then I'll go to Lex.
I'll make it snippety snap. So when it comes to behavior change,
snippety snap.
I'm going to type that into the chat. Don't worry.
Everybody tonight, you have to use this in a sentence somewhere before you go to bed or wherever you're at. Snippety snap has to be used. Okay, Andrew, go ahead.
Burpees.
Snippety snap. Go ahead.
10 burpees, snippety snap. If our job relied on simply relaying information and giving that to people, this world would be a much different place. Having the information isn't necessarily what changes people's perspectives or their behaviors. So let's design an environment. Let's use language. Let's surround ourselves with friends and equipment and open spaces and the type of attitudes that help to motivate people so they therefore can develop their own sense of inspiration.
I love that. Lex, how about you?
So know that you're showing up for more education on this topic, right? So you have the passion and you're amazing. You're changing their behavior. You may not always know it, but you are changing their lives. And I think just keep that in mind. Don't be hard on yourself as their trainer. Know that you're doing a great job, and big picture, you're doing amazing things.
And I know that you guys came to say, you thought, well, maybe if they come 6 times, that causes a pattern or behavior or Sadly, there's no magic number. We've tried to do that, and everybody is so individual. Kimberly, finish it up, because you always have the most beautiful words at the end.
Oh, no pressure. I would just say keep showing up for yourself. So many great thoughts. Lexi, I just wanted to shine light on another thing that you said. You guys, you're out there being an uplifter, being a difference maker for other people. You've got to make sure that you are your own client. You've got to make sure if you really want to make a difference in the world, it starts with taking care of yourself. And then as you work with people, it's the why, and it's the understanding of the journey. And it is all about building that relationship, because we thrive on connection. We're hardwired for it. So when we have the why and we have a strong foundation of self-worth, don't forget that. Really encourage people to tap into that, have conversations about that. Don't shy away from that, because when people feel like they're worth it, they have that sense of esteem that means they deserve the vision that they've created for themselves, that they've been talking to you about, changes the game. When you've got the self-worth and you've got the why, and then they get to lock arms with someone like you, sky's not even the limit. So stay the course, keep showing up, and know that we are here rooting you on every step of the way.
Okay, guys, I don't even know what to say. I don't know about you at home, but I've learned a lot, and I feel the passion from this beautiful panel. I hope it helped you guys. Don't forget that we are here every Tuesday night with a different webinar. Remember, this has been recorded, so if you'd like to watch it or actually share it with someone, please do. I want to thank my panel, Andrew, Lexi, and Kimberly. You are always making me look so good. I appreciate everybody. Stay safe.
You don't need help.
Florida Mania. We are back live, guys. So if you want to come to a Mania in your corners, we are around, we're around, we're around. We're also doing still our webinars and stuff online. Once again, have a great night. Take care, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate everybody.